The Oklahoma City Thunder are coming off a terrific season, a season in which they went down in NBA history, becoming the youngest team ever to be a first seed in either the Western or the Eastern Conference. And we all know the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're in the Western Conference, a conference that was supremely loaded last season. The 10th seed, which is that final seed to get into the play-in tournament, the 10th seed was the Golden State Warriors that had Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. And they finished with an above 500 record, but they still were the 10th seed in the West. That's how competitive that conference was last season, and the youngest team in the NBA were able to say that they were the best team during the regular season. They also made history by becoming the youngest team ever to win a playoff series, and their legendary season came to an end in the second round of the NBA playoffs, losing to the Dallas Mavericks. But all in all, it was a terrific season for a team that has an average age of 23.9 years of age, and we can round up and just say 24 years of age. So they accomplished a lot last season, and we've made a couple videos on the Oklahoma City Thunder during this offseason. And one thing that I find so interesting, so fascinating, and has left me so impressed by the Oklahoma City Thunder as I'm doing these videos and I'm doing research. One thing that I keep seeing is how far down the Oklahoma City Thunder were in terms of team rebounding. They ranked 28th in the league and total rebounds per game, and when it came to offensive rebounding, they ranked at 29th in all of the NBA, which is mind-blowing, because we all know how important rebounding is. Rebounding, you can make a case that rebounding is the most important aspect of basketball, because once you do all that hard work to stop an NBA player or an NBA team from scoring the basketball, which is so hard nowadays, you have to secure the rebound. And it just makes me think, how can a team that's at the bottom of the league and rebounding, something that's so important, be the best team in the Western Conference at such a young age? And when you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, you watch these guys play, and you look at their collective stats, it makes a lot of sense how these guys were able to stay at the top of the NBA while lacking in such an important area. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. And before we get started, I think it's also important to point out why the Oklahoma City Thunder struggled when it came to rebounding the basketball. And we look at their starting lineup last season. Last year at the 5 spot, they have Chet Holmgren, who I am such a huge fan of, and I'm just now becoming a fan of Chet Holmgren. Towards the middle of last season, I started to pay a lot more attention to him, and he is so talented, so skilled, and I think he's going to have a great NBA career. But with Chet Holmgren, we all know that he's still adding that NBA muscle to his body, that NBA muscle to his frame. So right now, rebounding is not a strong suit of his, and it didn't help that the Oklahoma City Thunder, outside of Chet Holmgren, their lineup was relatively small. We go down the line, you have Jalen Williams. Now, I thought Jalen Williams, I didn't know he was this short. I just looked it up online. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but they said that Jalen Williams is listed as 6'5". Now, if he's 6'5", that's pretty insane that he's been so efficient and so effective playing the 4 spot in the NBA. And I think if he gets the opportunity next season, which he will, to bump down to that 3 spot, I think he could be a lot better, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So I'm really impressed with Jalen Williams for him to be playing so much bigger than the height that he's listed. And then we go to the 3 spot, which is Lu Dort, he's listed at 6'4", and I honestly thought Lu Dort was a little bit taller than that as well. And then you had Josh Giddey, who's no longer on the team. He stood at 6'8", and he was one of the better rebounders on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then you have Shea Gilly at the point guard position. He is 6'6". So the Oklahoma City Thunder, and it's weird. It's like at the same time, they had a big lineup because their guards and their forwards were long, athletic, but at the same time, they had a small lineup because they didn't really have no one alongside Chet Holmgren height-wise that could help him dominate on the boards, and then also boxing out. They're not the girthiest. Pause on that. They're not the girthiest lineup in the world. So as I looked into the Oklahoma City Thunder and I'm looking at their stats, and I found out some fascinating things that these guys have done as a team. And we talked about how important rebounding is. It's one of those little things. Rebounding is looked at by everyone as a little thing because, it's not that exciting to see most of the guys go up and get a rebound. Now, there's some guys that do make rebounding look crazy, like Isaiah Hartenstein, the guy that the Oklahoma City Thunder just signed. Steven Adams. I've been talking about Steven Adams a little bit this summer, and when I'm looking at the clips, there's sometimes he grabs an offensive rebound with just one hand, and it just looks crazy. But rebounding is not glamorized in the game of basketball. People like scoring, they like dribbling, they like dunk. So rebounding is it's super important, but it's looked at as a little thing in basketball. So and with the Oklahoma City Thunder struggling with rebounding the basketball, they did so many of the other little things so well. And where they made up for a lack of rebounding, a lack of offensive rebounding, is what they did with taking the ball away. Last season, they led the NBA in steals at 9 steals per game. So that helped them out a lot. When you're not getting offensive rebounds and you're giving up offensive rebounds, getting takeaways is a great way to offset that. And getting 9 steals a game, that's pretty insane if you ask me. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he played a huge role in that. And I think Shai Gilly, he has become one of the best players in the NBA, a top 5, top 6 at the least player in the NBA, because when I watch Shai Gilgeous-Alexander play on the offensive side of the ball, it just looks too easy. He can get to his spot whenever he wants. He plays at his own pace, and he's super efficient. It's like he does not miss when he's out there playing. It's very rare that you see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander have an off shooting night. He's averaging 30 points per game at the point guard position, doing it so efficiently. And then last year, he proved that he's one of the best two-way players in the NBA. He was so dominant on the defensive side of the ball, taking on challenges, staying engaged when he's not guarding guys with the basketball, stepping up to guard opposing great point guard matchups on certain nights and certain situations. And he was so dominant when it came to stealing the ball last season. At one point, I forgot what point it was in the season. It was towards the beginning, but Shai Gilgeous, he was leading the lead in steals, and he did end up leading the NBA in steals. But he was at one point he was so far ahead of his competition. I believe he had 91 steals, and the guy in second place had 68 steals, which is insane. So he was playing on a clinic on the defensive side of the ball. And so the Oklahoma City Thunder last year, they were top, I want to say they were the 4th team in the NBA in defensive rating and number 1 in steals. So that is one way how they offsetted their rebounding woes, and it led them to the top of the Western Conference and to the top of the NBA. And then another thing that they were really good at, they were really good at taking care of the basketball, which is so mind-blowing. And while I'm honestly scared for the rest of the NBA for this Oklahoma City Thunder team, because they were so young, but at the same time they were so mature. So another thing that they excelled at last season was taking care of the basketball. Last year they were tied 4th in the NBA for the least amount of turnovers per game, just averaging 12 turnovers per game. And I just think this says a lot about the players. It says a lot about the Oklahoma City Thunder players, and it also says a lot about Coach Markey. I think he had these guys well prepared on both the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. So that's what I was really getting at. The Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that was number 1 in the Western Conference at the top of the NBA, they were so good, but yet they struggled at rebounding the basketball. And we talked about how that's looked at by a lot of players who are, by a lot of people that are fans of the game of basketball. But all my basketball savants know rebounding the basketball is so crucial and so critical. And for the Oklahoma City Thunder to be at the bottom of the NBA in terms of rebounding and have the type of season that they had, I just think it's so impressive. And we looked at what they were able to do to offset that rebounding. They were so good at getting takeaways, so good at playing collective team defense, and then offensively they took great care of the basketball. And I just wonder if that's something that was talked about. If Coach Mark said, all right, guys, we know rebounding is not a strong suit, so let's get out there and let's take care of the basketball, and let's also get as many takeaways as we can. And I just think they play basketball in a very brilliant way. I think they're one of the more fun teams to watch. And now with the offseason that they had, it's just like I feel like now the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're gonna become one of those teams where it's a random Wednesday night, they're playing some team, and you're gonna look at the score and they're up 40 points by the third quarter. I think that's the type of season that the Oklahoma City Thunder are about to have, because I think they just had the perfect offseason. We look at them adding Isaiah Hartenstein, and that right there immediately addresses the rebounding problem. And the great thing with Isaiah Hartenstein is that you can, in my opinion, you can play him alongside Chet Holmgren, or you can play him with Chet Holmgren on the sideline. And I think Chet Holmgren, I think he would love to be in that fourth spot where he could really play in that free safety role. You put him on the worst perimeter shooter, or the least non-threatening player to score the basketball. I think he'd have a shot blocking clinic, and then Chet Holmgren, he's skilled enough to play the fourth spot. I think him and Isaiah Hartenstein, they can definitely work off of each other. Chet Holmgren can pass the ball, he can put the ball on the floor, and he can knock down the three-point shot. And then also at Hartenstein, he'll be able to thrive with Chet Holmgren on or off the court. So I love that addition. Hartenstein, he proved that he's one of the better bigs in the NBA, I should say. Not one of the best, but one of the better bigs in the NBA. But he is one of the best rebounders in the NBA, especially on the offensive glass. He put on a rebounding clinic during his playoff tenure with the New York Knicks this past season. And also, we just talked about how great they were at getting steals, playing collective defense, and then they go and replace Josh Giddey with Alex Caruso. And this just gives the Oklahoma City Thunder, these two additions, it gives them so much lineup flexibility. They can go big or they can go small and just swap out Alex Caruso where Josh Giddey was playing that last season. And I think that'll work out just fine for the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think they might even get better offensively as well with the addition of Alex Caruso. Because now you're implementing a guy that was shooting 40% from the three-point line last season and replacing him for a guy that last year that teams was leading him wide open. And last year, Alex Caruso shooting 40% with the Chicago Bulls with no true playmakers, with really no offensive fluidity, and putting him in the Oklahoma City Thunder system, he's going to be knocking down so many wide open three-point shots. So I think the Oklahoma City Thunder, the way that they played last season, going into next season with these additions, I think they're going to be a very scary ball club, and I think they're going to be so hard to beat. But that's what I wanted to point out with you guys today, that last year the Oklahoma City Thunder, they were bad at something that's so critical in the game of basketball, but they were able to be so dominant and so elite. And now they've addressed them problems, and I'm worried for the teams that I'm personal fans of. When they play this team, it's going to be very hard to beat these guys. But if you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment down below if you agree or disagree, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.